Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and I'm back with another real estate video. Today, I'm talking about something a little different, something that was very interesting to me, and then I found something that was even more interesting within this particular article and sale, and that is Mark Walberg sold his Beverly Hills mega mansion for $55 million, which you can see in the title right here. But when I was reading this article, there was a really interesting law Los Angeles has just enacted that may be the reason why he's selling and may cause a lot of other very rich people to sell their properties as well. And it also impacts a lot of different properties that maybe this law was not intended to, and is set up in a very interesting way. And by interesting, coming from a landlord like me, not a good interesting. But we'll see how it plays out and how it happens. We'll tell you about this new law and how it works, and show you a little bit about Mark Walbergs House too. All right, love the likes, love the comments, love the shares. Keep those coming. Sometimes we do cool videos of different houses I see in person. I haven't been able to do many of those lately. I've seen some cool houses, but agents have not let me post videos on them. And in fact, one office said their policy is they will never let other agents do marketing videos on their houses. So unfortunately, any cool listings with them I can't post, but I still am on the lookout for those. And then of course, I still post my properties, which I have some pretty interesting different properties, as many of you know, and businesses and different things. So, all right, so Mark Walberg, who I'm sure most of you know who he is, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, and then in lots of movies, I think he's pretty entertaining to watch, entertains millions upon millions of people, and entertainers throughout the history of the world have gotten paid very, very, very well, as he has. He bought this property, I think it was for $8 or $9 million, had it built over 5 years, and he was asking $87.5 million for it, ended up selling it for $55 million, 30,000 square feet. It has something like 22 bathrooms. Let me see. Oh, he bought it for $8.25 million in 2009. I'll scroll down. 12 bedrooms, 20 bathrooms, has a movie theater, a gym, a 5-hole golf course, driving range, skate park, swimming pool. Like, I've seen this house before, and it's pretty cool. And I wonder if I can zoom in here just a little bit to give you guys some better pictures, and then hopefully, let's see, we might be able to make that even a little bit bigger. There we go. But you can see, it is just crazy. And I do like the style it's in, too. Kind of like an old school style with the stone. Who knows how much it cost him to build this property. I'm a sucker for a really cool library as well. I would love to have a second floor like that overlooking it, but that's not a main priority of mine right now, but maybe someday in the future, who knows. Awesome kitchen, all kinds of cool stuff. There's your theater room, which is pretty cool. And, oh, of course, you've got to have your wine cellar. Gym, that is pretty cool as well. I do have a, not like this, but a small workout gym at home. I love to work out at home. It saves me time, and people think I'm crazy, but I usually work out at night when the kids go to bed, and I have some time to myself. Oh, that was the master bedroom, wasn't it? So you've got a living room within your master bedroom. That's, that's pretty cool. There's the back. A lot of these really big giant houses look kind of weird. This one looks pretty cool. But here you can see the really crazy part. Full basketball court. There's the pool there. And then here you can see his kind of golf course. Oh, that's a cool pool too. There's the basketball courts. That would be nice. Oh, it had lights too. Cool. So you can play at night. That's awesome. Here's the golf course. Obviously, it's not a huge golf course, but still pretty cool to have a few holes, even if they're short, in your backyard, complete with bunkers and everything. I am also a golfer. But there's the house. The interesting thing, and I'll try and make this a little smaller. Oh, that actually worked pretty good, because hopefully my face might be hiding some of this, but it's really big if you guys want to read it there. So, let's see here. Wahlberg, who starred in the 2022 films Uncharted and Fathers 2, was a motivated seller. He moved to Nevada last year, citing a fresh start and better life for his kids, and shelled out $15.6 million for a vacant plot in a luxury community near Las Vegas. $15 million for a vacant lot. Here's the really interesting part. By closing the LA deal in February, he avoids a $5.025 million tax bill under Measure ULA, which kicks in April 1st and would have charged a 5.5% transfer tax. That's the part I did some research on and looked into. Basically, Los Angeles has enacted, or it will be enacting April 1st, a 4% transfer tax on all properties sold above $5 million and a 5.5% transfer tax on all properties sold for more than $10 million from April forward. And I know some people might be saying, great, tax the rich, they've got enough money, they can afford it, these mega mansions, you don't need to have such a huge house, what's the big deal? Well, as usual, there's more to the tax bill than on the surface, and it might have a much, much bigger impact on Los Angeles real estate and housing and affordable housing than what you see on the surface. So we will come over to kind of the entire bill, which I found here, and I'll try to link to it if anybody's interested, but I read through most of this, all 55 pages. A lot of the last 15, 20 pages are just, links and sources. I didn't read through all of those. What's very interesting about this, and there was some other quotes and different things from businessmen in LA. This is not just on houses. This is on every property in LA. Meaning, if you have an apartment complex, if you have a grocery store like I have right here in this building, if you've got a strip mall, if you've got any kind of building that sells for more than $5 million, they're adding this tax onto it. So that could mean you're doing the opposite of what you're intending to do. The goal of this bill is to create a fund to help with homelessness, evictions, affordable housing. But if all of a sudden you're adding 5% onto every property that sells over $5 million, now all your apartment complexes got more expensive, your commercial properties got more expensive. All of those will have this massive additional cost tacked onto them. And what we've always seen in the past, I don't know if I should say always, almost always seen in the past, when more costs are handed to real estate investors through rent control or taxes or building codes or development costs, they pass those on to the consumer. Now, they don't pass those on to the consumer because they're jerks and hate everybody. They pass those on to the consumer because that's the only way they can keep doing business and have it make sense, right? Real estate is very competitive. Business is very competitive. People work on, within competition from other real estate investors. So when you build an apartment, when you build a grocery store, when you buy a investment property, you buy an apartment, a grocery store, whatever, you have certain returns you need to hit. You're spending a whole lot of money, taking some pretty big risks, and you need a return on that money to make it worthwhile. And a lot of these people who buy these properties are big investors who might not just be in LA, but might be, in other areas of the country buying in LA or who knows where they're from. Well, they're not just looking at LA. They're looking at all types of different cities and places to maybe invest in. And if they see cities like LA, which has been enacting stricter rent control, they don't allow no-cause evictions without relocation assistance, all kinds of different measures keep getting enacted in LA. Now you have this huge tax. Well, these investors are going to say, number one, how are these current taxes going to affect my investing? If I ever sell this property, that's going to be a massive hit on my return. I'm going to have to get it, sell it for more. I'm going to have higher rents. Something's going to have to change. It could just be I'll buy it for less, but will that always work? Because it's hard to say. So they look at that, and they also think, what else is LA going to enact in the future, right? What other things are they going to do? If I'm investing there, if I'm buying there, what else are they going to do to make my life difficult? I don't even want to go there. I don't want to invest there. I don't want to have any part of it. And what you see in a lot of these cities, like San Francisco enacted rent control, and they had a study that was done that showed rental units declined by 15% and rents increased with rent control because investors said, I don't want to invest there. It's not worth my time. I'm going to go somewhere else. That decreased the renter pool. And when you decrease the supply of something, it increases prices. That's happened in a number of different places that enacted rent control, have more restrictions. you see the rental pool decrease and prices go up. And the same thing will probably happen in Los Angeles, and not just on rental properties, but commercial or residential properties, but commercial properties, all kinds of different properties. Now, within this, there are some restriction or places that are exempt from this, and you could probably guess who's exempt. The government, right? They don't have to pay the tax, of course, any government building or that sells or anything like that. And nonprofit businesses, pretty much, is from what I read. Those are the ones who are exempt from this. Now, in order to do this, they go through all the different things and how it's going to work. And they're expecting to get $1 billion a year from this tax, which they will put into affordable housing projects, which they don't really say exactly how it's going to be invested, if they're just giving money, if it's, a supplement. Of course, the people who run those new housing have to be nonprofits for the most part, from what I see. Can't be a regular company. And they have to have a certain amount of low-income housing, which that's happened for years and years. Many places do that. The United States government gives benefits to people who do low-income housing. Not a big deal on that side of it. It's just a matter of where they're getting this money from. And all those projects have to be approved by a 13-person committee, which this act tells how that will be chosen, and they pretty much get to make all the decisions and rules on this. And then part of this money also goes to helping people who might become homeless, pretty much paying them directly, tenants who are in need of money, paying them directly, helping them out, and also to represent tenants who are facing eviction with attorneys. So they're trying to give a lot more money and help to tenants who might be facing eviction into representation and fighting those evictions, which is another thing where real estate investors will say, if it's going to be impossible, really hard to evict people, I'm not going to invest there. I'm not going to buy there. That shrinks the rental pool. That makes new building a lot less advantageous. It could shrink housing supply, or at least shrink the additional new housing supply, which raises prices. So in an effort to actually lower prices and make things better, a lot of times these bills and different things actually make it much worse. Harder to find housing. There might be some more low-income housing spots available, but then you've got millions of people fighting for those spots and not enough for everyone because there's no incentive for people to do them. Maybe there'll be enough incentive with this money from this fund to get that low-income housing, but then it might raise the cost of all the other housing and people who don't have low incomes or who might want housing. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And then I wanted to... Sometimes I have to bang my mouse to make it work, if you wonder about that. They talk about who will be on this committee, which is also very interesting. And then I will get out of your screen and... Oh, this is where it talks about all of the different stuff here. Here are the members. Okay. It talks about exactly who these people will be on this 13 voting member committee and 2 advisory members who don't get a vote. Number 1, an individual with at least 5 years experience in senior level decision making in nonprofit affordable housing development and preservation. Seat number 2, an individual with at least 5 years experience in nonprofit asset and property management and operations, with a preference for individuals with experience in tenant engaged management practices or resident ownership. Seat number 3, an individual with at least 5 years experience in housing finance, tax-exempt bonds, taxes, funding agency work, etc. Seat number 4, an individual with at least 5 years experience as a member of a construction labor union involved in workforce development, apprenticeship programs, and negotiating project labor agreements for large-scale housing projects. Seat number 5, an individual with at least 5 years experience in nonprofit community land trusts or community development corporations. Seat number 6, an individual with at least 5 years experience in transit-oriented development. I think one of their goals of this fund was to have more public transport to these different developments and different things. Seat number 7, individual with at least 5 years experience as tenant rights organizer or advocate working at a community-based organization on behalf of tenants in lower-income households. Seat number 8, an individual with at least 5 years experience as an organizer or advocate working at a community-based organization to address the housing needs of seniors and or people with disabilities. Seat number 9, an individual with at least 5 years experience as a tenant rights or fair housing legal expert representing or advocating for tenants. And then we have Really interesting stuff. Seat number 10, an individual with at least 5 years experience as a tenant in a lower income household and at least 1 year experiencing homelessness and or at least 1 year experiencing homelessness. Seat number 11, an individual with at least 5 years experience as a tenant of lower income household, the same thing, and or 1 year experiencing homelessness. Seat number 12, an individual with at least 5 years experience as a representative of a public sector labor or service union, the members of which struggle with housing costs. Seat 13, an individual with at least 5 years experience as a community leader or an organizer advocating for high-quality transit near affordable housing and job centers and for identifying mobility options associated with the production of affordable housing. And then youth seats 14 and 15, 2 advisory non-voting members of the Oversight Committee shall be individuals between the age of 16 and 21. They all have to live in Los Angeles. None of them can be a city, county, special district, state, federal, public official. And then it goes through some other different things on how they will be chosen. So I thought this was real interesting just to point out, when you have a committee, a voting member, an organization, whether it's business or government, I feel like we've always had the idea that you should have people from all different sides of the equation or atmosphere or whatever. Every single person on here has to have nonprofit or experience working with tenants or labor unions or transit to, work with kind of the tenant side. The only person on here who might possibly be on a landlord or business person side who might make some of these decisions is seat number 3, an individual with at least 5 years experience in housing finance, tax exempt bonds, taxes, funding, agency work, etc. That's the only one who didn't have like those, specific restrictions on being on one side. So it will be very interesting to see how this committee is put together and how it develops, because they have a ton of power on almost any low-income housing project. Has to be approved by them, go through them to move forward. And who knows how much power they'll have on other low-income housing and different things. And I'm not saying it's bad to help people who need help. I'm not saying it's bad to have low-income housing. I think that's a good thing. I'm not saying it's bad to have housing for people with disabilities or to help people who are homeless. There's all kinds of things that cities and states are doing to help with that. In fact, overall, homelessness has been going down the last couple of decades in the United States. Now you'll see it actually going up in some places, enacting more restrictions, more housing rules, and more policies like this. Again, it's like you have to be very careful what you enact, because sometimes the thing you're trying to help with, you're actually making it worse, because by allowing more free markets, more real estate development, more incentive for investors, you create more supply, which helps keep prices down. And you see that in Los Angeles, where in lots of California, it's like the more laws, the more restrictions, the higher prices get. You see that all over the country. Boulder, Colorado is a great example around me. Boulder, since I've been a kid, I went to school in Boulder, has had massive restrictions on housing, all kinds of crazy different rules on it, on development, all of this stuff. Within Boulder, you will see prices literally twice as high as a mile away outside of Boulder. Basically the same geographic location, same type of properties, but that imaginary line that separates Boulder from the other cities around it causes properties to be twice as expensive, because it's so much harder to build, develop, and do anything in that city, that builders don't develop there or don't do anything, and it just shoots prices up because supply is so low. And we'll see if this happens with this new act and policy in Los Angeles. All I have to say is, as a real estate investor, I'm glad I'm not investing there. I'm glad I'm in Colorado, although we are seeing more restrictions here as well, and we're seeing prices rise extremely high here too. Is it a coincidence? Hard to say. But over and over, even countries that enact stricter policies on housing investment see prices keep going to go up. And countries that don't have as many restrictions see prices stay lower. Now, some restrictions are needed. You have building codes, different things. Of course, you don't want a completely free market where everybody can do everything. It can be unsafe. Consumers can be in danger. So I see the need for some laws and restrictions up to a certain point, but I think there needs to be a happy medium where things work well, not this completely going overboard in one direction or the other. All right, I want to add some more to this video after I completed it the first time. And there's a lot of people who complain about things on the internet, say why they're bad, say why they're wrong, but then don't give a solution on what you can do to help. So I wanted to give an idea of what some places are doing to help fight homelessness without like alienating an entire side of the population. I feel like with LA and a lot of the anti-landlord talk and different stuff going on right now, it's a fight. Like it's the rich versus the poor, and just it doesn't need to be that way. Everyone can work together. I don't understand why you have to tear down one side of it to help another side when they're really not related at all. And Denver is doing something which, you know, good or bad, it's something that they're doing to help homelessness. They're buying hotels with government money, right? They're not having to take money from the rich and add crazy taxes and dissuade people from investing in real estate and low-income housing in Denver. They're using government funds, some federal, some local, to buy hotels, help house the homeless. And from most of the things I've read, it's been fairly successful in that situation. So there's something you can do to help, and you don't have to make it a fight against each other when doing that either. And I feel like that's one of the big issues with this homeless bill in New York is, you know, it's like you're taking from a certain population, kind of like, yes, we're fighting the rich, we're showing them what's up to be able to help low-income affordable housing, where it's like, why can't you just help low-income and affordable housing, especially with the amount of taxes California collects and their income tax rates and different things they have going on? It seems like they could do a lot of it without having to add this other part of it, except, as many of you know, politics do a lot of different things and crazy things to make their point. So thought I would add that in there as something that can help and be done, and it doesn't have to be a rich versus poor mentality. And a lot of people say landlords create homelessness. Actually the opposite, right? Most homeless people will go from homeless to a rental, or they're in a rental to homeless, right? It's not like homeless to buying. And landlords provide rentals. We fix up rentals all the time. Most homeless people can't buy a house. They can't get the loan. It might be too expensive, whatever it is. Landlords provide that stepping stone if they do eventually want to buy a house. And without landlords, there'd be way, way more homelessness, because there wouldn't be rentals in that stepping stone for them to get up to where they want to be. So that's all I've got for this video. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're in Los Angeles or have any in-depth knowledge on this. Of course, I can read articles and research different things, but I don't know everything on these, so happy to have outside or inside information on how these work. We'll be back with more videos and showing actual cool houses and my projects and businesses and different things here too. And of course, we'll have some crazy stories coming up as well. Thanks for watching. Be back soon.